Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be how I made this big boy. So here's a commission piece of a Stella Sea Lion, the male version. So a little look at the head. He's got a polymer clay head with glass eyes and little polymer clay ears, faux fur neck area, and I used minky fabric on the body, which I airbrushed a bit of that black colouring on. I have like a little bit of black with the flippers and the tail. It's got a little tail on the end of it too, so he's looking really good. It's a really big doll. So this guy's going to go off with the leopard seal, so it's the same customer. So I'll do a couple of bit of stop motion with this guy and possibly the leopard seal. I don't know how that's going to work. It's quite big, so I might just have to get like the heads in the frame. I'll have a play around though and see what I can do, but I need to take some photos, and then hopefully these are done by the time you see this video anyway. So yeah, if you want to know how I made him, then keep watching. Okay, so we're starting off by painting some glass cabochons, and now this is going to be a really big doll. The customer wanted a large doll to match the leopard seal that they bought. If you saw the leopard seal video, you'd saw I made a really big leopard seal unintentionally. So that customer that bought that one wanted to commission a Stella Sea Lion, so roughly the same size. So I'm painting up some really big cabochons in some acrylic paint. So the eyes are generally really dark with a little bit of brown on the outside. So I went in with the pupil just with some black acrylic paint, and then once that's dry, I'll go in with the iris area with some brown acrylic paint. Now I'm starting off with an aluminium foil core, and this is going to be quite a large core because it is a large head. It is a male, so it is quite a bit bigger than the female versions, and it's got a really bulky, fluffy, big head. So I've shaped a aluminium foil core to really a rough shape, and then I can start building up with some polymer clay. My polymer clay of choice is a Sculpey Original, so it's the white Sculpey that you can get. It's a lot softer. It's quite soft when you play with it. And you can get firmer ones if you like firmer stuff like Super Sculpey and Sculpey Firm, but I like the soft stuff, so I go with Sculpey Original, and it's a nice plain slate white color. So generally I'll use some different types of clay if I'm doing something like mouths or teeth, just little things like that to make it a bit more realistic. So I'm going to cover this foil core in a layer of the polymer clay before I start building it up. Okay, then I can start building up around the sides of the head to bulk that out a little bit. They have a really round head, so I didn't want to use too much clay with this, so I'm trying to do as much bulking as I can with that foil core. Then I can start mapping out where I want the nose to go and sort of getting a little bit of detailing work in there. So I've added a little bit of clay to the tip, and I'm just sort of roughing out where I want the nose to sort of sit and what I want it to look like, where the nostrils are going to go. So just doing a little bit of detailing work first, nothing too overboard. Then I can go in and start working on the lower jaw. So it's going to be a solid jaw. It's not going to be movable or anything like the leopard seal. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of roughly sculpt out a shape of a jaw and attach it to the lower section of the head. I've already mapped out where I want it to sit from the muzzle area on the top of the head. So I'm just adding that in and blending it to make sure it's still chunky as well, and having that little bit of a flap underneath the chin. Then I can start working on the muzzle lip sort of area. So again, I've rolled out 2 pieces of clay, roughly the same size, so I know that I can get the same volume of clay out of it. And then sort of fashioned it up into a rough shape of each side of the lips, and sort of butting them up against each other from underneath the nose. And that creates like that little crevice that you can see underneath the nose where the lips meet. And then just sort of molding it into place, I should say. So for the eyes, what I like to do is map out where I want the eyes to sit with my reference images on my computer next to me. I usually blow it up to the size that I need it to be and sort of just measure where I want the eyes to be sitting. So I usually place a little bit of clay to push those cabochons up and give them a bit more like posability, I should say, flexibility of where they sit, because I use flat back cabochons. So they have a flat back and they need a little bit of push up so they don't sit directly flat against the head. So I'm just popping them in place, and then I can look at it from all angles and make sure that they're sitting symmetrically and in the right place. Then I can start working on the eyelids. So I roll out a bit of clay into a worm shape, and I basically put this on top of the cabochons where I want the eyelids to sit. I have a little bit of a play around with it to get a look in the eyes that I like, and then I can start working up on the brow line. So I wasn't quite sure how I wanted these eyes to sort of look, I guess. So I had a bit of a play and yeah, found a little pose that I liked. Okay, so once I'm 90% happy with the way the look is, I can start building up on that brow line. So they have quite pronounced brow lines as well. So I've rolled out a thicker piece of clay into a sausage shape and it's placing it on top of that eyelid and blending it into the rest of the head. And then I like to add a little bit of volume underneath the eye just to sort of complete the eye lid or the eye look, I guess, and not too much clay underneath the eye because they don't really have really puffy under eyes. So just a little bit of clay to blend into the rest of the head and sort of finish off this eye. And then I need to add the really high ridge on top of the head. So I placed a bit of clay on top of the head and blended it in. Alright, so once that is nice and baked, I can start painting all the pieces that need to be painted. So I baked this one for a little bit longer as well, just because it is a larger head, but this is the only thing that I had to sculpt. So all I had to do was bake this one piece and sculpt it. So I've attached the armature to the back of the head as well, so I can start painting it up. I am using a black acrylic paint for the nose area and around the eyes. Now for the ball and socket armature, because this is a large doll, I'm using my largest ball and socket armature, so I think it is the 3/8 size or something like that, I can't remember. I have stock of this, I have stock of all these armatures in my shop. I just don't have the pliers for these two smaller sizes, but I have, I think, 2 more pliers left for this size, so check that out if you're interested in doing larger dolls. So I fashioned up a little body out of the armature and popping all those pieces together. Again, I don't have to attach anything because it only has a head to attach. So I'm just clicking in the last bit of one of the flippers. Then for this doll, I tried something a little bit different with the needle felting. I had this batting sitting around for a long time and I've never used it because I don't really do really large dolls like this, especially really chunky ones. So I thought I would do the body in the batting first just to bulk out that instead of doing a whole lot of needle felting and just a time-consuming process. So I thought I'd try this, and I think it worked really well. So I needle felted over the top of this. So this batting is basically the same stuff, but it comes in a roll. And I've sort of needle felted it together, and then I went over the top with my normal needle felting process just to refine the body a bit better. So I guess if I ever do dolls that need bulking out like this, I'd probably use this batting again. It saves a lot of time for much the same result. And again, just wrapping it around the entire body. I used about 1 bag of this for this doll and some more polyfill for the needle felting. Okay, so for the body, I am using a long pile minky fabric. So I'm using 2 different types of fabric for this one. So around the mane area, I decided to go for, I guess it's their winter coat, so they have a bit more of a mane on it. So I found a really good faux fur that has a great texture for the same type of mane. And I'm going to be airbrushing this body as well once it's all sewn up, because I need to give a bit more color variation. So what I'm doing is using this minky fabric around the body and also for the flippers. So I'm sewing the torso piece, pinning it together, trimming all the excess off, and then I'll sew the torso piece up with a ladder stitch. I'm also going to do a little bit of a pattern for the flippers as well. I did the same process for the leopard seal. I created a little flipper pattern and then cut them out, and then I ended up sewing these bits on the sewing machine just so they're a bit more secure, and it's a lot faster too. And it's something that I can do on the sewing machine, and it will turn out much better than doing it by hand. So I've cut out 2 sides to each, and also the flippers on the back as well. Okay, so just sewing this bit up with a ladder stitch, and it's a really kind of easy body to sew as well. Seals are really quick to make considering the size of it, because it's literally like a tube and some flippers. The flippers probably the most time consuming ones because I hand stitch all those details in, like the little toe knuckles, I guess you call them. But for the rest of the doll, it's a pretty quick process. Okay, so for the mane, what I'm doing is rolling out a piece of that faux fur that I got. It's a little bit of a different color, but it will sort of look better once I do the airbrushing, if that makes sense, because their fur is a little bit mottled, and the longer fur on the mane is a little bit more of this caramelly color. So yeah, I've cut out a piece of fabric, and I'm going to pin it together, trim some excess off, and then sew it to that minky fabric, just accounting for those little flippers that are sticking out there. But again, it's really simple. It's basically a tube that you sew together onto the minky fabric. And again, just using the ladder stitch to sew this up as well, and some good quality thread. I used Gutermann thread. It's just a little bit better and has less chance of snapping like the cheaper thread is. Alright, so the flippers have been sewn up on the sewing machine. I've just basically gone around the pattern that I cut out in the first place. I'm going to flip it the right way around, and then I can start sewing them to the body. I'm going to add a little bit of polyfill to this as well, and sew up those little finger toes, what do you want to call them, with just by hand. Alright, so I've popped the little fin or flipper on. I'm going to pin it all together once I put some of the polyfill in. So I'm going to pin it in place to make sure it doesn't twist around when I'm sewing it, and making sure that I'm pulling it so it's sort of a little bit flat, because the flippers aren't really that bulky, so I want it to be a little bit flatter. So you can see how tight I've pinned that one there, making sure there's no gaps or no creases or anything like that. And again, I'm going to sew it up using that ladder stitch as well, and go all the way around, making sure that stitch work is really tight. Okay, so for the toes, I'm going to switch to some black thread, and that's because I'm going to be airbrushing these flippers in a pretty black color, mostly black, but a little bit of brown show through. So I switched my thread to black to hide it, and I'm basically just using a running stitch to sew in all those little detail works of the little toes. Alright, once everything has been sewn up, I apply some of the faux fur to the head. This faux fur was really tricky to work with because the way it was stitched into the backing was kind of in lines. So there was like a gap, then line, gap, line, like fur, gap, fur, gap. So it was a little tricky when I trimmed it, and also my tool that I use for cutting normally didn't go through this faux fur, so I ended up having to do this by hand with my scissors, my like pet shearer scissors. So it was a really tricky faux fur to work with, and I didn't realize when I started working with it because I haven't worked with one like this before. So yeah, a little bit of troubleshooting to fill in those areas, but I think it worked out well once I've figured it all out. And I'm just adding some more detailing work once I've trimmed it as well. So there's a crow in the background that's going bananas. And yeah, I'm just using that same black acrylic paint to go over and bring out those details again around the mouth and the nose and the eye area. Alright, so moving on to the airbrushing. This airbrushing was a big task because I used my little airbrush. It wasn't coming out really enough. So I used a bigger airbrush, but it went through the paint really quickly and it was watered down and it just didn't turn out as black as I wanted it to. So I did a really rough initial coat over all of it with the bigger airbrush, and then I went over it again with my smaller airbrush just to darken up some areas. So this bit was a little bit time consuming as well, considering it's just one colour. So I have a love-hate relationship with my airbrush. Sometimes it's really difficult and sometimes it works. You know, you got to get the consistency of the paint just right, and sometimes you don't get it. And because I work with faux fur as well, you know, the end of the airbrush gets blocked sometimes, so I have to clean it out, start again, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think the airbrushing gives it a bit of realness that I can't achieve with hand painting things. Alright, so that is pretty much it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. That is my last commission for a while, I think. Oh, actually, no, I lie. I have another leopard seal that I'm going to currently working on. So it's a much smaller version though, and I've already done the sculpting, so it shouldn't take too much longer to finish it. So keep an eye out for that. I will do another video on that because it is a smaller version than the one that I made previously. So yeah, you can check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, Creatures and Nat. I've been doing a fair few lives lately, so catch me on either TikTok or here on YouTube for my lives. I do it 3-4 times a week. So yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff. Give me a comment in the video. You can check out my store, creaturesandnat.com. I have my Veiled Chameleon that is currently up, my new doll. So payment plans are welcome as well. Just shoot me a message. And yeah, if you liked the video, don't forget to like, give it a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!